Good evening. My name's Jennifer O'Rourke. I live at 447 Tyson Avenue in Abington. Before I begin tonight, I want to preface my comments really quickly, if possible, by stating that this past year I was able to work very closely with the faculty and administration and the parent community at Copper Beach. I, along with Samantha Brownlee, helped produce the first musical ever at Copper Beach Elementary, and it was an incredible experience. I think what was stood out most to me was that the size of the school and the size of our cast, how supportive the administration was and the faculty was and the parent community. Copper Beach is a rather large school. It has over 1,100 students in it. And the faculty and administration and the parents are amazing. However, it is an elementary school with 1,100 students in it, and at some point, the ability for the faculty and the administration to be the shining clouds that break through this large school, there's an end point, right? So the teachers and the administrators and the parents can only do so much, and then I think size matters. So tonight my comments are focused on class size. My first question refers to page 7 of the 2016-2017 final budget, which was published by the board. On page 7, there's a list of items that the 16-17 budget funds. Third on the list is the item funding to maintain favorable class size. I'm all about home improvement. Tonight's been a very exciting night to see all the changes in the district and the infrastructure changes. But my real concern is class size. So my question to the board is, given that phrase, would the board be willing to quantify the term favorable? I'm not asking this to be snide. I'm asking this to emphasize the fact that the current number of students in the 6th grade classes at Copper Beach has a total of 27 students in each class. In addition to this increase in class size, from what we've seen, and it's kind of creeped up over the year, over the summer there was the removal of a 4th grade teacher/section. I don't know how you would phrase it. This took place in August after the Copper Beach, after the school district budget was approved. The community never received communication about it from the administration or the board that this took place, nor did the board or the administration extend the courtesy to explain why it may have happened. This error made jointly by the administration and the board has eroded the trust between the parent community that it once had. We're here tonight, or I'm here tonight on behalf of others, seeking to be reassured that this will not happen again. I would also like to ask the board to publish the real class size per class, per teacher, per school for our current school year. The parent community is capable of compiling this data through a broad network of families in the district. However, it doesn't seem to me that this approach should be necessary. We are your parent community, and you are our board, and our goal is to work together. We are seeking clarification on what the board considers favorable class size. I know that there is not a single parent in the district that would call a class of 27 favorable. I'm a little nervous. This is my first board meeting. I also feel confident in saying that as an educator myself, I have never come across another educator that would say 27 students in a class is favorable. That goes for the educators here in Abington School District as well as the educators at Radnor School District where I teach. The Abington parents and the Abington teachers are the individuals that see the negative impact of large class size, and we see it firsthand. We see it in the eyes of our children, and we see it in the faces of our students. I emphasize the knowledge base of the parent and the teacher on this issue because I'm concerned that the board does not have a firsthand knowledge base for this negative impact. And again, I think this is a fabulous school district, but I believe that there is a real disconnect from what the parents and the teachers are seeing. And by teachers, I'll say me as the educator. I don't want to speak for anybody in Abington School District. And correct me if I'm wrong, but to my understanding, no one on the board has ever taught in a classroom. I've been fortunate. I've taught in classes where there's 6 students. I've taught in classes where there are 20 students. I am teaching in a class that is very large at this current time. And the only thing that ever seems to change class size, in my experience, is when the parent community comes and is very vocal and in a productive, refined way shares that concern that a new high school is needed and necessary, that technology is fabulous, but what we really want are smaller class sizes, that those are our fundamental priorities. I watched the taping of the August 9th school board meeting, and there was an individual, a woman that spoke from McKinley, and she ended by stating that she felt that there was a philosophical difference between what she felt and what she saw as a need for the district and what was being spoken as the vision of the board at that time. I don't know how the class size was handled at McKinley, and I'm sure somebody could follow that up. So here's my next question, I guess. As a parent and an educator, I'm voicing my concern.
Ms. O'Rourke, I don't want to cut you short.
Okay.
But we do try to limit public comment for each person so that everyone gets a chance to speak.
Okay.
So if you can wrap this up pretty quickly.
I will. That as next year's budget is finalized, you hear this concern and respond proactively by hiring teachers if necessary and not reactively by shuffling faculty. We shuffled faculty. The parent community wasn't told. While 27 children in the kindergarten class is tragic, 27 in the 6th grade classroom is tragic as well. We currently have 27 students in each classroom. I have to finish this, Mr. McGarry, if you don't mind. I recently spoke with a board member who encouraged me to bring my concerns to the board meeting. The member of the board encouraged me to encourage other parents to voice their concerns. Comments are always welcome, they said. As I shared these comments with parents, they replied that they were scared. Scared that that would put an X on their back. Scared that that might be passed over for a coaching position or a volunteer position. Scared that there will be repercussions for the negative impact on their children. I assured them that under no circumstances would the board or the administration ever conduct business in that way. Whether these fears are real or perceived, that's not for me to say, but the disconnect on the issue of class size between what the parent community envisions as favorable and perhaps what the school board visions as favorable are not the same. And I really do hope that we can work collaboratively. I think that the situation at McKinley was solved after the August 9th meeting. I hope that by coming here tonight, there are a lot of people here tonight in support of this issue, that you hear us. But again, the issue on August 9th, the woman that spoke, Lisa Guy Ricks, I think, I apologize if I blundered her last name, her whole point was it's reactive, and it shouldn't be reactive, it should be proactive. And while a new high school would be beautiful, and I think really need it, we have to prioritize our budget. And I think the community, and I'm here to speak for a great deal of community members, wants small class size. Real numbers, that if there is a student in the desk, that counts as a real number, regardless of what enrollment category they're logged under. So I thank you for the time. Thank you for the extra time, Mr. McGarry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Chris Small. I live at 639 Hillcrest Avenue in Glenside. I know I only have a few minutes, so thank you very much for letting me have them. So I'll make my comments, and hopefully you can respond. I chose to move to Glenside about 9 years ago, and the reputation, all the awards behind of the Abington School District was one of the main reasons why we moved here. When I first moved here, Copper Beach was a large school, larger than I was prepared for, but it had a certain small school feel due to the community that surrounds it and the small class sizes. My oldest son entered Copper Beach with a kindergarten class of 21. Currently, a 6th grade class has 27 kids per class, and I've seen that small school feel disappear over the years. I feel this increase in class size has negatively affected his education due to the large number of kids and the strain it puts on the classroom. In the board's projection for 2016-2017, the 6th grade was projected to have 128 students at the start of the school year. His grade currently sits as 162 students, with 6 teachers and 27 kids per class. In 2014-2015, the class had 153 students. In 2015-2016, they had 162 students. Both years had 7 teachers. I think we parents would like to understand the justification of removing a teacher with an increase or even a flat level of students from the previous years. The projections for 2016-2017 also show 7 teachers for 4th grade and 6 teachers for kindergarten. At the start of the year, however, the exact opposite was true. 4th grade had 6 teachers and kindergarten had 7. This increased 4th grade class size to an average of 25 kids. We would like to understand how the removal and not the replacement of a teacher can happen after budget has been approved and how it can be prevented from becoming a regular occurrence. Currently, in this year's projections, 1st grade is a grayed out box, but stands at 7 teachers. If the budget is approved and with 7 teachers and a need for 8 teachers arises, we're interested to know where that teacher will come from this year. Would a new teacher be hired or taken from another grade, and how would that grade be affected? Looking at the board's projection enrollment presentations for 2017-2018, it's reported that in October 2016, Copper Beach had 992 students. In reality, its student population in January 2017 is 1,131 students. It's a difference of 139 students. So either enrollment increased from October to January by 139 students, or there were some other factors. I've had many conversations with people who have talked with other people in administration on the subject, and I'm looking for some verification on what I was told. It was explained to me that special education students are not included in the elementary school enrollment numbers that determine class sizes. I would like to know if that's accurate. That numbers we see as a community on slide 3 of the presentation do not include special education students, only general education students. This slide is the only place I found that class sizes numbers are calculated. These enrollment numbers obviously affect the overall class number and the resource allocation to those classes, so both children with needs and general classes are negatively affected. I've also looked at some other real enrollment numbers across the district. Copper Beach stands at 1,131 students, as previously stated, with 46 teachers. Rydell has 595 students with 27 teachers. But if you double Rydell numbers to what you are at Copper Beach, you'll get that on any given day, but Rydell would have 52 teachers. That's 6 more than Copper Beach currently has. We as parents are concerned in the community that this trend towards increased class sizes and insufficient allocation of resources is hurting our children's education. From everything we've heard today, by the time the new building is made, our grade school classes will have 35 to 40 kids in them. So they'll be able to go to a new building, but maybe not be prepared to be in that building and all the science that you're trying to teach them. As a school board, you have a responsibility, obviously, for setting the vision and directions for our children's education, but we as parents have a duty and responsibility to our kids to do what's best for them. We need to address these issues to set our children on a path to academic achievement and make sure Abington School District maintains that reputation that has influenced so many families like mine to move to our great neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Allison Lalonde Wyant. I'm a very proud Copper Beach parent, a nervous one, so I'm glad to see so many other Copper Beach parents here in the room. First, I want to thank all of you for the work you do. I'm like so many other parents who can pretty much take for granted that our students are getting a quality education. And so I know that's because of the work that you do here in the room and the work that happens at the school with all the tremendous teachers. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak into that work. I'm here tonight at my first board meeting because I'm also concerned about class size creeping up, particularly at Copper Beach because that's where my kids go to school. And I'll get right to it. I'm strongly opposed to any increase in class size, even at a fraction of a student per class. Class size does matter, particularly in elementary school, and there's a wide body of research to support that argument. So I'd like to share some of the findings that resonate most closely with me and with my family's values about why class size matters. And I'm going to share these basically from the National Education Policy Center's 2014 report. So I think that's the most seminal work that we have currently. First, in smaller classes, students spend more time on task and demonstrate higher levels of engagement. We want that. In smaller classes, teachers spend more time on instruction and less time on classroom management. We want that. In smaller classes, Black students experience statistically relevant gains that may help to diminish Black-white achievement gap. We want that. And in smaller classes, students who qualify for free or reduced price lunch experience statistically relevant gains. Admittedly, that's a small portion of the population at Copper Beach, but those students deserve those gains. We want that. Furthermore, I'm more concerned with class size at Copper Beach than I would be at a smaller elementary school. I want to tip my hat to Dr. Viola and her team. I've been impressed at every turn by how they manage our large school community. It is a wonderful learning environment. At the same time, we know from the research that smaller elementary schools are absolutely associated with higher achievement. I'm thinking of the North Carolina State Board's report from 2000 in particular. Since large elementary schools are already posing challenges, I can't see putting another hurdle in front of our children in our large school by increasing their class sizes. Increasing class size in the interest of reducing costs to our district makes me question what our bottom line is. And I'm hopeful that our bottom line is learning. And I don't say that from a Pollyanna place. I'm an educator by practice and by training. And in my current role as Assistant Dean for Teaching and Learning, I serve as in a college that's a profit center for a university. And so I understand all of the compromises that need to be made between what's best curricularly and for the learning environment and what makes sense for the bottom line. In my own context, some trade-offs are worth it for projected financial payoff. Class size is not one of them. At the elementary school level, that's especially true because if the district increases class size now, we'll likely face significant related social and educational costs down the line. Parents are sophisticated consumers. Understanding the value of a smaller class size doesn't take an education degree, it's common sense. There are families who will choose to live elsewhere or opt out of our public schools if our class sizes continue to creep up, especially since our test scores will likely suffer, and we don't want that. To sum up, putting student learning first means rejecting class size increases even at a fraction of a student per class, and I'm curious to know what you think about what is a favorable class size for our students, because I think you'd agree with us that 27 is not it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Joe Rooney. I live on Maple Avenue in Ardsley. And there was so much information here, it almost took my breath away. I'm not sure where to begin. I just have a few comments first off. The first one is in defense of Ms. O'Rourke and the other gentleman right here. The last meeting was canceled, and the previous meeting before that, when Dr. Sickle wasn't here, was only 9 minutes long. So I think there should be additional time for the people who were in the community to get up and talk. I had to come from JFK for the 9-minute meeting. I missed the first 3 to 4 minutes of the meeting, and I used 3 minutes of the 8 minutes that was left just to ask a question. So I'm sorry that she was interrupted. I know there's another session here, but I hope you'll give a little bit of flexibility to people. With the quantity of information that was put out at this meeting, the last meeting should have been rescheduled. You should not go over agenda items on curriculum, on borrowing $90 million, on building a whole new school that it's hard even to take notes to even talk. So I was hoping in the future that you're going to give a little bit of extra time to people, realizing that you only were here 9 minutes when Dr. Sickle wasn't here. We have a $150 million budget. There's unbelievable amount of information right here could have been discussed over a 1-hour meeting right there, or parts of the budget, even if Dr. Sickle wasn't here. I found that very disappointing and almost, very surprising. So with that in mind, and I'll try to brief over a couple of things. Number one, I was here when the gentleman talked about the population projections for the future, and I heard Mr. Stupine say 100 students a year for 10 years. So is the board saying that there's going to be 1,000 more students in 10 years or not? That's not what those gentlemen said. So is the board right now, they said 100 a year for 10 years, that's 1,000 more students. So is the board right here saying there's going to be 1,000 more students in Abington Township in 2027?
That's not what the enrollment study said, if you'd like me to answer.
Yes.
What the Montgomery County enrollment study said is commencing 3 years ago, which would be, and I don't have the study down here with me, and you're more than welcome to see it.
I was here, yes ma'am. I'm sorry.
It said commencing in the 2013-14 school year that there'd be about 100 more students, and by 2023, the school district would grow to almost 9,000 children. And we've seen that happen. We were at about 7,200, 7,300 in 2010, and next year we are projecting 8,100. So it's retrospective as well as going forward.
As you know, I said to several board members, this flies in the face of the Pennsylvania School Higher Education Association that said that across the state, population is decreasing. I understand we're saying Abington's an anomaly.
But they're enrolled and they're coming, and you just heard parents who are extremely unhappy with class size, and I happen to agree with them, and we're going to deal with it.
I understand that. I would just question, I just wanted to understand how many students we're building, because we're building a school that's going to last for 50 to 60 years.
And all of that information was made available on January 10th in
yes,
terms
ma'am.
of what we project next year. And the Montgomery County Planning Commission did provide that data, and it was presented publicly, and it is available.
So what we're asking then is the taxpayers to pay an $80 million loan to both redirect our schools to a different structure for grading, and then also to add up to 1,000 students. So the question I would ask is, if the taxpayers are being asked for an $80 million loan, it's for education, it's not to build buildings. What could we do with $80 million to reduce class size? I don't know the answer to that. What could we do to hire more teachers, more aides? I don't know what we could do, but there must be a trade-off somewhere between ending up with an $80 million structure and nothing else, and addressing Ms. O'Rourke's question right here of saying, I don't want 27, and I don't know the answer of 22 or 25, but you as a school board, I hope, would take a look and say, okay, these gentlemen are here to talk to us how much it's going to cost to borrow $80 million, and what taxpayers, who long after these kids are out of school and these parents have moved on, are still going to be paying for, okay? And what we could do as far as increasing our student enrollment, our student improvement. Because what I'd like to hear for the $80 million is, how are we going to improve the education of the kids who are coming out the other end? That's what I'd like to say, not how many classrooms are we going to build. What are we going to do to have better teachers and have better students? School's about educating kids. And then the last thing, and there's so much stuff here. You talked about class rank. I'm sorry, there's like a cognitive dissonance here. Look behind you. Just look behind you right now. 100 best communities, 100 best communities, 100 best communities, best places to live, Silver Award. We're ranking. I wish we treated education like we treat sports. Has anybody heard of the NCAA finals? There's 64 schools, and everybody's got a pool at work, and they're all betting on which one of the ones is going to be the best. Some kid at Abington has worked his butt off to be their butt off, to be #1 in the school. They worked hard for 4 years. I can't tell you about education, but I can tell you about the military. I can tell you about Delta. I can tell you about my kids who graduated from the academies. The Naval Academy announces the name of every one of their top 100 students. The Air Force Academy announces the name of every one of their top 100 students. When my daughter's applying for the Coast Guard Academy, they have 50 slots. They have 56 kids. They rank every one. When I apply for Delta Airlines, everybody's ranked. We got to get our kids ready. I don't know where you all work, but you're all ranked. You may not like it. You may want to do the top 100. A kid who's #1 has earned that. He's worked hard. She's worked hard. They deserve that. I cannot believe we're going to eliminate rank and think that doesn't motivate people. It motivates the NCAA teams. It motivates the Abington basketball team, who we all celebrate when they win a victory and they win a championship. It motivates the chess team when they go down to Atlanta and they compete. It would motivate individuals, too. So that's all the time I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Sickle?
Yes, I really appreciate the Copper Beach parents coming here, because I think you have very important things to say. And I think we're moving in a direction that is going to make you far more comfortable, and we commit to continue to study that. Please know that we are aware of the Copper Beach 6th grade. You are correct. With special education students, there are 27 children in all 7 of those sections, and I'm not particularly proud of that. So I think we do need to consider to make some corrections for next year. We've already started that. We presented to the Board of School Directors at our projected enrollment meeting in January that presently there's 46 teachers at Copper Beach. We asked them and got approval to make a 47th teacher and add 1 section back. And we also have a gray box over there, and if need be, we would make a 48th section. And I think we need to continue to monitor this carefully and make sure that those corrections are made, because it is not a goal of mine nor the Board of School Directors to watch those numbers creep up. So I can continue to bring data to you as we watch things happen between now and the opening of school, and I will do just that.
By the way, a gray box, extra teacher, and there's, how many gray boxes do we have in the district? 6, 8?
For next year, Mr.
Yeah.
Stupine? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and let me count how many we placed in special ed. 10, 11, and
But whatever
11.
num- whatever
So we have,
numbers-
we have flexibility in the budget to
They're
add
built into
teachers
the
as
budget.
needed.
It's not taking from one school and putting in
Right.
another. They're extra teachers that we don't know where they're going to go yet. They're built into the budget.
And as they're needed, we do hire them.
Dr. Sickle, if I could just ask one question about the gray boxes. If it comes to fruition, do you have space in these elementary schools for these additional
Yes, we
classrooms?
do. Every place where there's a gray box, we have space, but I got to tell you, not at Copper Beach, there is room, though it's getting awfully big. There's not spaces in some of the other rooms, and we'd have to do some creative things as well.
I mean, some of the other buildings.
Some of the other buildings, there is room at Copper Beach.
I know we've talked about that, that there is physically
Right.
just not room, which is a very hard,
Which is one
part of the reason we've looked at this high school plan.
Which is
Yeah.
why the ninth graders need to go to the high school, the sixth graders need to be in a true middle school, 6, 7, 8 building, and our 7 elementary schools need to be K-5. And hopefully we can do that within the next 4 years based on the presentation you heard the staff make.
Adding teachers only helps so much. If you have no
Space.
classroom for them to teach in,
Right.
it's not really helpful. And so this is, it's not just a
Yeah,
teacher
and-
problem, we need to build in some space.
And what I failed to share when I gave you that data of adding an additional teacher, Copper Beach is expected to go up 7 kids in regular education and down 9 in special education, so it's a net -2 with 1 additional teacher already assigned and the possibility of another one if needed. So we're already making those cross corrections. We heard you loud and clear throughout the year, and we will have some different changes for September.
So I have a question. You hear a tone that maybe some people think we have a plan to increase class size. Would you put an end to that now? That's not true, is it?
I think I said it. I hope.
no
I
plan.
hope people heard it. There's a lot of people in the room, and that's not our plan.
Right.
I'd like to just say one thing. I'm a Copper Beach parent as of up to last year. My son went K through 6 over there, and I know the classes are big. They were for him. But I think that the community over there is such a stunningly positive one. That's what got me to work on the PTO. That's what got me on the board. I mean, we were involved with Copper Beach very much. It's a great place. And what I'd also like to say is something that was spoken about you fearing coming here and speaking your mind and worrying about it impacting your children or yourself. God, I hope you really don't believe that. I mean, it's really important for us to have this dialogue. It's really important for the board members to know what you're feeling and what you're thinking. The administration works really hard. They don't really toot their own horn about how hard they work, but we do want to know about this. It's really important. When my son comes home from school, and if he's having a problem, we work on it. I'll talk to the principals and the teachers. I'm an involved parent. My wife's an involved parent. And I want you to be an involved parent. I want you to come here. I love this room full of people who care. When I meet a parent who says to me, "Oh, I've never been to a school board meeting," my first thing is, well, come to one, and come and speak. You're absolutely no better than any of us. I mean, I hate speaking myself. But I think when you get up and the courage you show to share these ideas and give your points of view and ask questions, and if you don't like the responses, ask again and we'll work with you. I mean, the board, we are elected, but it's still a volunteer position. We don't get paid. We do this because we love it, we love the district, and we love making a difference. So thank you for all of you who made a difference, whether you spoke or not, and I hope in 2 weeks you'll be back.
Thank you, Mr. Gay. Mr. Chair.
just to echo Mr. Kay, yes, please don't feel like you can't come here and talk about this stuff. And frankly, tonight, to hear several people speak on a very informed knowledgeable basis about real issues, a real issue that is near and dear to all of us, because even though we might not talk about it at every meeting, class size is one of the top 2 or 3 things that are always addressed to the best that we are able to address it. So, we frequently have people who come and talk for a lot and don't really say anything. Tonight, we hear people who come in and really know what they're talking about, and we want to hear it. We really do, and we do care about it. We all either have or have had kids in this district, and we all went to public school, or I went to public school anyway, and class size is important, and we have been and will continue to be and are planning to do whatever we can within the very real constraints that exist to have the smallest class sizes we can. It doesn't happen instantly. It's very hard to do. As these parents here who are here for the first time and are educators themselves, some of them will see, as you follow this process, it's very much a priority for us, but it doesn't happen easily and it doesn't happen quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Scher. Yes, Ms. Lavelle.
I work at the community college, and I have taught at the elementary level and have been in the PTO and have been a den mother for Cub Scouts. So I understand the importance of less is more. And to have more teachers is wonderful, but you have to have a room that's safe and appropriate for them to learn in. And not just hire teachers and stick everybody in a closet. So building a building, while may seem frivolous, is absolutely essential to have a safe school with technology and teachers who have all the tools they need to do what's right. And having appropriate class sizes is vital. It helps the teacher, and to the point one of the parents made, and I apologize for not remembering your name, but you shouldn't have to worry about classroom management. You should worry about instruction. And because when the larger it gets, you can have safety issues. So you are heard. I can't speak for other people, but I'm reasonably assured that none of us want large class sizes. And so we will do what we can within the constructs that we have to ensure that the children have a safe, size-appropriate learning environment.
Thank you, Ms. Lavelle. I want to echo the comments of my fellow board members, and thank you, first of all, for coming out this evening. And I can assure you that nobody on this board, no one in administration, would ever consider retaliating against any student, any parent, for speaking their mind at a board meeting. I encourage, and I've said this many times when we have large crowds at board meetings, I encourage participation. I look for participation. I hope for participation. That's how we can do a better job as board members. To sort of follow up on some of the comments of Ms. Lavelle, it is important that we have buildings for the 21st century that provide a learning environment that our kids need. That's part of it. That's not all of it. Obviously, we need great teachers. We need small classes. We need technology. This high school was built in 1955, and it's gone through some renovations over the years, but it's antiquated. It doesn't have, we've had parents like yourselves come to the board meetings and complain about the quality of our science laboratories, the quality of some of our other classrooms in that building, and the quality of the pool, for instance. There are very many interests that we need to look at as a board. Educating our students is number one. How do we do that? Well, number one, it costs money. So we need to make sure that we have an appropriate budget to be able to pay for that quality education. Number two, we need to have great teachers. We need to have a fantastic administration. We need to have board members that care. We need to have a parent communities that care. And I think we have all of that in Abington. And I think that we're very lucky to live in a community that has all of that. But then we do need to have a learning environment that is good for our students, that provides the appropriate environment, whether it's technology-based, whether it's the size of the classroom, whether it's the number of the classrooms. And so we realize that we do have some space issues. And space issues puts crunches on sizes, the size of the classrooms. That's just simple math. If you only have so many classes and your number of kids is growing, the number of kids in each class is going to grow. And so that's part of the reason that over a year ago, we took the steps of looking at the way we structure our kids in the classes at the elementary, at the junior high, and the high school, so that we can provide the best learning environment for our kids, and that we can make sure that we have the appropriate number of classrooms for our kids, so that we can have small classes, so that we can have the technology in the classes, and so that we can provide the learning environment that our kids need and that our kids deserve, and frankly, that our community members deserve. And I am the parent of a student in the high school now. She came up through the elementary schools at McKinley. My two older daughters came through the schools from the elementary through the high school. They're now, one's in college, one's in grad school. So I am a parent of children in the school. I value the size of the class. There are some times where things happen where you have unexpected numbers of kids that show up. And that you are unhappy sometimes with the arrays of the classes. And those situations are unfortunate, and we try to learn from it and try to make sure it doesn't happen again. And you have a right to be upset if you're upset with the class size, and you have a right to come here and raise that concern, and then it becomes our duty to make sure that we fix that. And you have our commitment that we're going to make sure that we're going to do our damned best to do that. So, not just at Copper Beach, but at all of our elementary schools, at our junior high and our high school. And so that means that we need to make sure that we have the funds to do that we have the staff to do that, and that we have a board that's willing to do that. And I can assure you that this board is willing to do that. So thank you very much for coming out this evening.